Okay, next chapter is the funnest one, in my opinion, which is chapter 11. I titled it UFAs for Unidentified Flying Aliens because we really get into it. I think I'm just going to read. You decide how crazy our experiences are for yourself. I got to show you the pictures though because, All right. While talking with my parents the other day, I was explaining some alien UFO stuff. Just a couple days before, my son Aiden was talking about aliens living on Earth. My mama said she did not believe that there were aliens running our planet. Aiden was telling us all at the table, and approximately 2 minutes after they were talking, the news came on with Tucker Carlson showing UFOs flying into the ocean. I had to tell my parents with all honesty, when you see them and they're close, there is no question. It just is. As real as any sunrise or any sunset. Our family has always had visits ever since me and Wendy were dating. Our first UFO encounter, loss of time, was when me and Wendy were on a date hike in Claremont. The entire experience is documented in my first book, Seeds in the Wind, by Trafford Publishing, and it's pretty wild. I'm not going to get that in depth into it, but I will cover it. Here's my book. Cool. All right. Oh, that is on Amazon too. You can find it along with the book I'm reading, Sacred Mountain Living with CTE in the Wild West. Here we go. It was a magical experience with spiritual enlightenment, angelic visions, and a crazy UFO flyover close encounter with some loss of time. So in this chapter, I will hit this one pretty briefly. We went on a hike in Mount Baldy to watch a sunset. It got dark on the trail and we pushed on for a bit. It was creepy to me, and we stopped on the west face of Mount Baldy. Wendy said a prayer, invoked some angels. Right after a little ceremony, there was a massive meteor shower. We watched, and at the tail end of it, there was this massive fireball coming right at us. I said to Wendy, "This is it. The asteroid's going to wipe us out." We watched as this massive fireball began to slow and then it flew over us. It looked like a football, like the one hanging around my neck here, with the ass end cut off of it. The ass quarter ends was like flying over. On the back of the ship, there were 3 massive lights that looked like giant crystals that were flashing different colors. There was no sound, just an absolute silence from the ship and nature. While looking up, Wendy and I both had visions of future to come. I guess in retrospect, it was a cycle of life of the earth with death and rebirth. Horrible and beautiful. As we headed back down the mountain towards my white Dodge 4x, we could hear voices talking. We got concerned and started a fast pace to get a look at the car. When we looked, we could see that the turnoff where our car had happened to be was loaded with cars and people I had assumed were looking at the shower. When we got there, it was just getting dark and there was no one around. We had no idea how long it had been. It seemed like maybe hours had gone by. We didn't speak to anybody at the ship and just jumped in my truck and left. The experience was the driving force behind us moving from Chino to the mountains. And with all this ad-lib, with all that's going on in the world today, that book kind of explains why a little bit. It's kind of sad what's going on. Change is hard. Okay, back to the story. Living on the mountain was a crazy experience as documented in this book, but the story here is one of the most, if not the most memorable, shocking, and maybe a bit scary. This is freaky. My boy Aiden was just an infant under a year old. We were down in Bakersfield shopping. It's an hour drive to get down to the mountain to get there. On the way home, we were headed up the Lions Trail, which is Cowbodfish Road, a windy country road with switchbacks to get you up to 4,000 feet where we lived. I recall thinking about that awesome experience at Mount Baldy and saying, wouldn't it be cool to see a UFO on the way home? That is the only thing I recall from the time we left until the time we woke up. At the north end of the basin, about a full 30-minute drive from the spot on the Lions Trail, was the next memory I had. At the same moment, all of us started to wake up. There was Wendy and I and our 2 sons, infant Aiden and Logan, who was a teenager. We were all driving in a small white Toyota Corolla that I had gotten from my grandparents. I think I was the last to wake up and I was the driver. which is crazy in itself, right? If you have ever been put under for surgery, you can understand the type of weird, drugged out sort of sleep we were in. I was behind the wheel and could hear Wendy. I think she was the first out of it. As I awoke, we were just past the sharp corner at the north end of the basin, and Wendy was pointing at the front window above us. As I came to and looked up, I could only see a massive ship above us. I was like, you couldn't see sky in any direction. This thing was enormous. I am in real estate, and it's easy to approximate large acreage. And this ship was about 10 to 12 acres in size. Boom, right? The bottom of the ship looked like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, in the sense that it was gray colored with what seemed to be pipes or round tubes protruding from the underbelly of the ship, but under the outer metal covering, just like the Falcon. In what felt like a drugged stupor behind the wheel, this massive ship began to move away from us. Wendy started yelling at me to go, go. It was really difficult to make myself push the gas to chase the ship. I was so groggy. The ship hovered above and moved up the road to the top north end of the basin, which is a hill top. We were able to follow the ship to the top of the road. As we crested the top of Calbad Fish Road, the ship was just in front of us and 100 feet off the ground. It accelerated and actually shot like a massive bullet from a gun. From the top of the road, you could see for 50 miles down to Lake Isabella and across the lake. Like the first UFO, this massive ship made no sound. This thing, in a matter of a half a second, was over Lake Isabella, and as it approached the mountain range at the north side of the lake, it banked straight up off the mountain into space. You could see trails off each side of it as it banked up off the mountain. The ship was well over 10 acres in size, and it was gone in just 1 second. Over 50 miles and then straight into outer space. During the first encounter, there was a sense of divinity, peace, and awakening. During this second encounter, it was dark, with a sense of helplessness, fear, and dark energy. As we were watching the ship leave, Wendy was grabbing Aiden out of the car seat. She held him in her arms and repeatedly kept saying, "Thank God we got the baby back." As we approached our house, none of us were talking. We actually felt a block to speaking about it. Our dogs would not go near us for days. They acted like we had radiation or something. Wendy kept repeating for about a day, over and over again, "Thank God we got the baby back. Thank God we got the baby back." We didn't speak about this for days. It was really weird, and I don't know if we were all processing or had a block to speaking about it. It was actually mentally difficult to accept. About 3 days later, Logan came out and said, "Why aren't we talking about what happened?" While speaking about it, there was several things that we all felt happened. I can honestly say that we were blessed that we made it back. We all felt there was a fight or a conflict on the ship that facilitated our return. I am grateful my wife is as strong with knowledge and awakeness with regard to spirituality, Mother Earth, and the angels. We lost about 3 to 4 hours of time. We were not home until late at night, and it was twilight on the trail when I figured they grabbed us. Wendy had started her cycle the next day, which was really unusual. And both me and Logan agreed that probing is about sperm sampling by prostate stimulation. Horrible to say, but yeah, those aliens got us. We all felt violated, but blessed to be back. The next experience was just the boys. Do I have to say that over again? Like, that's so wrong, right? Let me just say that again for anybody that didn't catch it. Both me and Logan agreed that probing, like back there, yeah, is about sperm sampling by prostate stimulation. Right? That's why they're doing it. Has nothing to do with anything else. They just trying to get your DNA. Okay, moving on. In the next experience, was just the boys. Logan, Aiden, and I were headed back from Lancaster, where we were visiting my grandparents, Mom and Dad. Aiden was about 3 years old when this happened. Wendy was hanging out with her friends at the time. We were headed through the windmills up to Tehachapi. As I neared the top of the road before you reached Tehachapi, I can remember seeing a massive green flash. Then it repeated in the sky. We pulled over and all got out. There was this ship between Tehachapi and Mojave up about 1,000 feet. We could only see it when it flashed, but when it did, it lit up the whole sky. No sound, just the first two. I called Wendy at the place, and she was shocked they couldn't see the green flash as it was so bright. We were shocked she couldn't see the green flash where she was at because it was so bright. This one wasn't a close encounter, but it was memorable because the ship wasn't concerned with us, but maybe had a problem going on. Because of this, we were able to get a picture. See below, and pictures are cool, right? This one I love because it was green, and I just love the color green. See the ship right there? You buy the book, you can get a great picture of it. You look right at the thing. Available on Amazon for $3.99. Okay. The green UFO was streaking across the sky for all three of us to see. It is really hard to get a picture of a UFO that is a close encounter. It's just too exciting and fast to be able to grab your camera phone and get a picture. I found comfort in this picture as I now had something to show people who are skeptics of our stories. Boom. You don't like it? Here's a picture. See the picture. There you go. The next experience was about 3 years later. Aiden was in the back of the green Jeep, and he was about 6 years old, we figured. He was one of them booster seats for kids. We can remember him being slumped over asleep. We had to keep propping his head up as we were winding up the Lions Trail. As we approached the top of the trail, there was a spot where it's more flat. As Wendy and as I looked towards the north of the basin, we could see an orange star moving above Breckenridge Mountain, which is on the west side of the Walker Basin. It turned and started heading towards us. I was excited and wanted to see what was up with this thing. At this point, it was just a light in the sky. As it got closer, we could see it was a triangle. This triangle came towards us, toward the road at about a 45-degree angle, and then turned right behind us. It was chasing us down the windy road with tall pines on both sides of the road. The ship was right behind us and about one car length and only 30 feet in the air below the trees. Wendy was praying to Jesus and speeding around the corners. I can remember hearing the raised Jeep's wheels squealing as we ran around the switchback corners. I was saying, "Stop, I want to get a picture and have an experience," and Wendy was in full flight mode. Can't blame her, but the experience was just exciting to me. We all felt like this was a human pilot triangle thing, you know, maybe from Edwards or whatever, screwing with us. Both me and Logan had our heads out the window watching the craft follow us at high speed around corners about 5 miles. It was a triangle just a bit bigger than the Jeep and had a central light that was pulsing the entire time, like a strobe light above the Jeep, and had no sound. As we crested the mountain, we could see another car's lights in the far distance. As we got within a few miles of the car, the ship peeled off and headed south. As far as experiences go, this one did not have any positive or negative feelings, just excitement. We all felt this was a U.S. military craft, and whoever flying it was definitely messing with us, but who really knows? It was fun. Aiden got a telescope years later. During a few months of stargazing, we noticed that almost every night there were ships in the sky above our ranch. It's crazy. It became a thing to go check for UFOs. I really wanted another picture, so during these times, another one just seeing them fly. So during these times, other than just seeing them fly over, there was no contact. However, we got a pic or two. If you look carefully at this picture, you can see the lights on the side of the one ship. It's a saucer with lights. And these dudes were above our ranch. There's the green one. Ooh, oh no, man. It's hard. Anyway, bye, look. Got the picture. The final encounter that I'm including in the book. Oh, here's another one. Here's another picture for you. It's from the same night of this guy right here. And if you look at it with bare eyes, you can see that it's the weirdest thing because it's actually like old school saucer UFO shape. I say old school, but I wish we had that technology, right? I want to get into that in a minute. The final encounter that I'm including in the book, because there's been more. It's wild. It's very interesting. Both me and Wendy experienced a strange feeling in bed. I felt like I was being shocked. I got up and headed outside. Wendy later described being in bed and having a whirl of energy above her head. As I headed outside, I could see a dark gray UFO directly above our house. I started to move south, and I ran around the house to chase it. I watched as this smaller saucer-like ship headed into the middle of Walker Basin. The dark gray ship had no lights and had a weird energy, also no sound. We lived on the north end of Walker Basin above the mountaintop, so we could see for many miles. The ship banked to the right and headed towards Breckenridge Mountain, side of the mountain. Just at that instant, there was a whirl of different color spiral and open on the east face of the Breckenridge. The ship went directly into this vortex, and then as fast as it appeared, the tunnel closed and the basin was dark again. Later, I saw and bought a painting that was done in Walker Basin, which had the ship and the whirl in it. It was in lineup with my ranch like the painting of the incident. However, when I looked at the back of the painting and the date, I was shocked to see it was from a different year. Uh-oh, how many times this happened? The painting hangs at our hotel, and you can view it if you happen to stay in the Earth Suite. And that's Sacred Mountain River Suites. You can check us out online. We're in Kernville. It's a beautiful place to stay. I do not know if it was how the ship was looked or in my imagination, but I thought these things... Okay, I don't know if it's how the ship looked or if it's in my imagination, but I thought these beings were like knights with like some kind of... It's weird feeling, like very metally. Referring to an armored-looking space suit. I never saw one of them, but had this image in my mind. Really weird. I lost the ability to speak a week after that and had a disease as CTE hit me with the ripe age of 39. Was it the UFO, mold in my office, stress? I'm not sure, but it is for another chapter. That's a good chapter too, especially if you're suffering with it. So many questions about what the truth is and why. How many times were we visited and did not know it? It seemed like the close encounters we had were only with the abductor or visitors who made mistakes. Like, if they didn't screw up, we didn't know they were there. Why are we tagged? I think I know, but I'm not certain. Oh, I even wrote that. I do know this. Life sure is a darn adventure, right? Woo! Seems viable. What do you think? Once you have experiences like this and your perception changes, every aspect of life takes on new meaning, and the lens of perception is forever altered. Aliens exist. Boom. Oh, now the government's going to freaking say it. Okay, great. They do, though. And much more prevalent than you would ever think. So here we go. We were headed down to LA for some business, and we were on Vernon Street. We happened to look over, and there was this guy walking this woman like a dog down the sidewalk. It's a bit hard to explain, but the woman was maybe a robot, and the man didn't look human. I know it's LA, but it just wasn't normal. And I have seen people on this sort of drugs, but they, or should I say, he wasn't human. It wasn't drugs. This guy was charging down the street with this fembot lady down the sidewalk. She had a choke collar on, and he had a leash and was marching with her. This dude had super bulging eyes, and it just looked unnatural. So they stoned by us, Wendy said to me, with the windows up, check this guy out. And then he immediately gave us a hard look and marched by staring at us with his fembot marching by, facing towards like a doll. He went to the corner and was staring at us as we drove by. There is no way this guy could hear us or notice us looking at him. Hard to explain really how weird it was or why I think they weren't human. As I read this aloud, it sounds like a hooker and a pimp. You can decide. This next experience was clear-cut in my mind. We were in Walmart down in Bakersfield. We were standing near the checkout lines, and there was two aliens, and these two aliens were checking out. I'm not kidding you. They looked sort of human, but when you looked at them, the skeletal and facial structure was not human. The smaller male had dark skin and very blunt head with bulging ridges and bumps that shouldn't be there. The female was super tall and had a very elongated skull with super large eyes. We were about 100 feet away, and Wendy leans over to me and whispers, check these two out, they're not human. As soon as she says it, both of them immediately and in unison shot us the strangest look across the store. There was people all around us walking in and out of the store and between us. They were looking right through them. They were looking right through all the hustle at the front of the store directly at us with the most serious odd face I've ever seen, or at least can remember. Then they both looked back at each other, and almost instantly, every person in line and walking by crowded around these two. They were acting like these two were celebrities, and all they wanted was an autograph. These people created a sort of huddle around them, and we couldn't see them after that, and we just left. I will say that Wendy used to teach anatomy and physiology. She knows the human body. They were not. Wendy happened to be talking to me about the Hindu religion. This is where it gets interesting. For me, personally. We were discussing how many of them Hindu gods seem like aliens. Anyways, they have this beautiful Hindu temple in Chino. I have always been curious about what one of these places look like up close, and Wendy is into all that sort of thing, so we both decided to go check it out when we were down at my parents' house in Chino Hills. This happened to be a time in our life we were really questioning who we were. Or I should say I was. And why we're getting so much attention, UFO-wise. Our spiritual beliefs happen to be a bit older than most religions, and so it's easy to see truth in all religions. Also part of my first book. We headed to the temple. It was actually a bit nervous. Felt like we were breaking into a church or something, and maybe we kind of were. Arriving at the structure was really cool. You can see above, they have a front gate, sort of like a guard gate. Wendy knew what to tell them to get us in. I think she said we were just visiting. We first went into the most crazy, cool, jaw-dropping, insanely beautiful building with carved walls and ceilings. From this room, we headed into a smaller room and gave an offering or a tip. This is done for good luck and prosperity. That's what Wendy said. Everybody got to pay the bills. Check this place out. Yeah, there's the pictures of it. These are the carved wood rooms in there, and this is there's the whole structure there, and that's the temple. I get you right now. Okay, when we headed back outside of the main temple, we decided to go inside and left our shoes where other people had, and we walked over to the stairs and proceeded to climb up the cool pyramid. As we were walking up the stairs, both sets of stairs had bright white marble for each of us to ascend up upon. It was actually cool how the sun was catching the light off the marble, so that as you step up, the step you're standing on would appear to glow. Almost like it had lights, but it was just the way the sun was shining on it. As we reached the top, there was two people giving us a really weird look. I reached out and opened the door to the temple at the top of the stairs. I may get emotional. As I opened the door, the lights of the white room was almost shocking. I was instantly back. I don't know why or how, but a memory of a home. This temple was an almost exact replica of a spaceship me and Wendy, or a spaceship we were on, or a room we were both in. I was in my memory walking through it in such shock and disbelief as through surface of a time we're not allowed to remember, as disbelief as though surfaced of a time we were not allowed to remember. I was walking around this room in awe. The entire room is white marble. The shocking thing that was where the altar... I don't know why I'm so emotional right now. I'm sorry. Woo! The shocking thing was where the altar to the different spiritual leaders were. There were memories of rooms, a master bedroom, a control panel for the ship that was in a blue raised hologram. Hell, I could even remember which room had the toilet and the bath. It sounds crazy, but as I look back to check on Wendy, she was in the corner of the room, completely taken over by emotion, and was on her knees. She had tears and was totally overwhelmed with this place. I had explained this dream memory I had about a spaceship we were on. It was while we were on a vacation at the hot spring. She looked at me and she knew this was the ship. After some time, we were escorted to the elevator to head back down. I don't know if it's because we're not Hindu or if it's just not allowed, but we were told not to climb the stairs of the temple. It was a really cool experience, but one that had actually raised more questions. Why are we tagged? Why cannot we remember? How many different species are there? Why do multiple UFAs, unidentified flying aliens, have interest in us, my family? Are we special? Lucky? Or cursed? Let me show you these pictures on the way out. That was a fun one to read. It actually was hard though, because it brings up some really tough memories. There's my house. I don't know why that's my house, but inside there is where me and Wendy had a house. Weirdest memory. That's the stairs we can go up here. Pop, 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 pop. It's a mind blow. If you guys aren't into and you're just into cool places or architecture, like, you know, you should go check this place out. It's amazing. Don't forget to leave a tip. All right. Whew. Oh, again, book Sacred Mountain living with CTE, brain damage in the Wild West. And I come back from it. That's how I'm reading right now. Lost the ability to speak. And I'll read the story.